What's Hashem doing? Borei Olam. What are you doing, Hashem? We're watching the news. And however evil and barbaric it was, the majority of the world are attacking us right now. It says in the Talmud, Olam HaSheker, the world of lies. Achshav ro'im Olam HaSheker more than any time. How can it be that after October the 7th and the level of, all of a sudden, it didn't happen if I didn't see the photo myself and took the photo myself? This concept of even if we bring proof it's not good enough shows anti-Semitism. Tonight I'd like to share with you the Kabbalistic explanation of what's really happening at the moment. This is big, my friends. This is big. This is big. We're in, this isn't just Stam war. זה לא רק מלחמה, זה משהו כללי, זה משהו גדול, זה משהו ענק, מה קורה פה? כל העולם, 300,000 יהודים בוושינגטון, השבוע. Jews together. כולם ביחד, פתאום. Do you know the last time I think we were like this? Kabbalat Torah. Before we received the Torah, Hashem said, I've got a beautiful gift for you. And I've been waiting forever to give it to you, but only when you're together. And it says in the Pasuk, it doesn't say, Vayachanu Yisrael. Katuv Vayichan Yisrael. And he encamped. 3 million people became he, Hashem. We're close to 15 million people becoming one. And if we're one, first of all, we can't be touched. Second of all, Mashiach comes. So we're big things are happening. But let's try and explain the bigger picture. Here we go. Number one, I think we need to stop trying to rationalize anti-Semitism once and for all. Let's stop defending ourselves. Let's stop saying, oh, it's because of 1948 and because of 67 and because of occupation. And I've got news for you. There's been anti-Semitism before 1948. People talk about context, and the United Nations talk about, oh, nothing happens in a vacuum. Tonight, let's explain the vacuum, and let's explain it right now from the Torah that we're reading. This week's Parsha. Rivka, Yitzchak and Rivka, she has a child. She has this child, and she thinks it's some schizophrenic, crazy child, because she goes past the Beth Knesset, and the baby's trying to get out. Very holy baby. But then the next moment, she's going past the place of Avodah Zarah, and the baby's trying to get out. So first of all, normally, you should know that when we were in our mother's womb, the Talmud in Nidah says, we're learning with the Malach, and we're very calm, and there's not normally the spiritual schizophrenia that we have in our lives. We're normally, everything's cool, we're pure, and yet her baby's gone crazy, and she's now thinking, half of my baby wants to serve idols. Oh yeah, maybe it's to do with my family who are made into idols. So she went, not to her husband, because she was upset. Maybe she thought it was her fault. She went to the Rosh Hashiva of Shem to find out. And the Tzaddik Shem, the Rosh Hashiva of Shem, said from Nevuah from Hashem, let me explain to you. Shnei le'umim bevitnech. You don't have one baby. It was the ultrasounds in those days. You have two. There's twins. They're fighting, there's two of them. You've got two nations. You've got Yaakov and you've got Esav. You've got the Jewish people, and around every bit of holiness, there's something called a klippah. There's a shell. Every nut has a shell. Every fruit has a shell around it. It's called the klippot. Tel Aviv has klippot. Every city, every holiness has its own klippot. The whole of Am Yisrael are born with this spiritual cover, this spiritual shell, the spiritual skin, which once they started living their life, for the first 13 years, there was no difference between Yaakov and Esav. It says, Vayigdilu hana'arim, when they started having bar mitzvah, all of a sudden Esav is now killing and raping and maiming and doing the stuff that they did. Instead of Esav was ready, just pioneering. Just like Avraham Avinu taught us kindness, Esav taught the other side how to do terrible things. And you've got this very powerful pasuk, which I'm saying this to myself all week, and I want you to start saying this to yourself. If you want to know what's going on in the world, one of the most important verses in the whole Torah this week. When Yitzchak is trying, hoping that his son is going to do a bit better and do tshuva, and he's hoping for the best of Esav, and he asks him to come for a blessing, and Yaakov is going to come in through his mother and steal it. If you want to really understand the story, come tomorrow night. In Malon Dvorah, we're going to talk about it in depth at 7:30. At the end, Yitzchak, who's blind, who sees this person coming in, is it Yaakov, is it Esav? Tomorrow I'll reveal who he thought he was. And he says the final famous line, and this is what epitomizes today. Hakol kol Yaakov vayidai midei Esav, says Yitzchak. And he's not talking about Yaakov and Esav, he's talking about you right now, and the other side right now. The Jewish people, what is our strength? What are we going to win? Aleinu l'shabech, Hakol kol Yaakov. Our strength is our voice. Bilam understood that and tried to kill us with his voice. He says, your greatest weakness is your strength, and therefore my voice is going to curse you. Baruch Hashem, don't mess with the kol. But Hashem, and I wish he wouldn't have done this, he left out a vav in Hakol. Hakol can be written with a vav and without a vav. Yesh vav or chaser vav. But Torah, tzari, and vav b'kol. The first time. It says, Hakal kol Yaakov. Hayidayim midei Esav. Hashem's created a system that if we, our people, aren't being the light to the nations, that Hashem has asked us to be, Hayidayim midei Esav. Our opponents are allowed to start doing damage. But the way we're going to win, and we love you, Sami, and Hashem Yishma Otcha, and all the soldiers, we need you, but it's Hashem. Your power is coming from Hashem. The soldiers don't have their own power for the Jewish people. It's not like we've got the greatest army in the world, with all due respect. We've got Hashem, and Hashem's working through them, and that's why we're going to win. Me'achus. There's a verse in Zechariah, there's a pasuk in Zechariah which is that we don't put our trust, lo b'chaya lo b'koach, ela b'Hashem tzvakot. We put our trust in Hashem. And that's our strength. But if the kol is without the vav, they have strength. And then you have this verse in this week's parsha, Vayistom Esav et Yaakov. Esav hates Jacob. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, he says he hates him and wants to kill him. He's going to wait for my dad to die, I'm going to wait for Yitzchak to die, then I'm going to kill him. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the Zohar, says the craziest line, Halachahi. Normally there's a halacha about how you keep Shabbat, how you keep... He says, Halachahi she'esav soneh et Yaakov. There's a fact of life. There's anti-Semites out there that they don't want to be rude to us, they want to kill you. And me, and our children. They don't just want us to be a second-class citizen, they want us to be zero citizen. They don't want a two-state solution. They want no Jew policy in the world. Halachahi. Do you think, if you have 5 minutes to spare this week, should you spend a bit more time on PR, doing hasbara, or 5 more minutes, maybe saying psalms or doing volunteering? I've got news for you. I finally understood why Israel is so rubbish at PR. Because what a waste of money that would have been. Wouldn't have made a difference anyway. We're hated. The moment that the anti-Semites activism erupts, it doesn't make a difference. You know, the lovely BBC, where I come from. Do you know what levels of altruism, literally altruism, we're going at the moment right now in the hospital? How did the BBC report it this morning? I don't know if you saw. The BBC reported it. Israelis are now attacking the hospital, and they're targeting medics and Arab speakers. I promise you, word for word. Word for word. Because they're anti-Semites. End of. Not going to make a difference. What if we have a great PR? Truth makes no difference to them. Vayistom Esav et Yaakov. And anti-Semitism has come and come and come. So, for example, our first exile, we're in Egypt. 210 years in the most terrible slavery after Yosef saved them. How many people think, if I just help the country, if I integrate better? I'm into my football. In the Football Association, there were some very important Jewish people who did a lot for the FA. And now all of a sudden, the FA have just, we're the only tragedy not to be empathized with. So they light up, Wembley Stadium with every color of the rainbow, but not Israel. And the Jews can't understand it. After everything we've done for you, and after we've been there for you, and been to your parties, and been to your friends, and we're friends, and you don't care about us. Correct. Nachon, we need to stop being surprised. Stop it. The only people you can rely on is our own people. And yes, it's important to portray in a good way who we are and to make a Kiddush Hashem, but it's not there. That's not going to stop anti-Semitism. What stops anti-Semitism is when we're united, when we're strong. So I'll give you an example. We have the most incredible miracle of Yetziat Mitzrayim. We come out of Egypt. 10 plagues. Who in their right minds would mess with the Jewish people at that point? We come out of Mitzrayim. What's the first verse? Vayilachem Yis Amalek, this wicked grandson of Esav, chance to kill you. Surprise attack. Surprise attack. It's another thing, they're cowards as well. Now Iran and Lebanon, they're like, it's not so much fun anymore. It's good when they like the surprise. Amalek tried to surprise us. Crazy. Irrational. By the way, the irrationality of it made Yitro convert to Judaism. Because he said, Vayishma Yitro, he said, one minute. After everything I've seen in Egypt and the miracles of Hashem, and you've still got people who are trying to kill the Jews, you're either with them or against them. And by the way, I really feel this right now. Don't you feel this? You're with us or with Hamas. There's nothing in the middle anymore. There's no I'm in both parties. You're with Hamas, you're not with us. It's very, 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 very pashut now. And Yitro felt that, and that's why Yitro said, I've got to convert. Here we go. Let's try and explain what's really happening at the moment. Daniel had a prophecy. In Daniel's prophecy, he saw the 4 exiles. And he explains the 4 exiles. Do you know what the 4 exiles were, anyone? Go through them. When was the first exile? Right, so the first official anti-Semitic, proper Galut exile was in Babel. It was after the first temple. We had 410 years of unity with David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech, and it was the golden period. But the moment we started not doing what we're meant to be doing, the moment we stopped being united, and the moment that Kol Yaakov became without the Vav, we activate the anti-Semitism outside of us. And this time it was in the guise of Nebuchadnezzar and Bavel. And they destroyed our temple on the 9th of Av, and we had our first phase of Galut. Then it came, even during that time, to the Persians. So the first one happened in the year 423 BCE. The second one is in Persia, 372, was when the Purim story takes place. That's the one in Iran. When Iran gets involved, nothing's much changed, and that was the second exile, which was with Purim. The third one is with Greece. That's when we're back in with the second temple and the Yevanim, and that's Hanukkah, which we're going to be having, please God, in 3 weeks. And then the one we think we're in, even though we're not, is the Edom. Ever since the destruction of the second temple, we've been in the Edomite exile. But says the Maharal of Prague, and he prophesied this a few hundred years ago, and the Arizal prophesied this 300 years ago. And a book called the Pirkei de Elazar, the teacher of Rabbi Akiva, prophesied this 2,000 years ago. And they write, it's not going to be the final exile though. The way they put it is the exile has 2 legs. The first one is Esav, but the second one is Yishmael. You see, Esav in this week's parasha did something which we're seeing out. Esav alach, v'yitzchaten, lebat shel Yishmael. He went and Dafka married Machlat, the daughter of Yishmael. Why? Katuv b'midrash. עשיו אמר ככה, אולי אני לבד לא יכול להרוג את יעקב. אז יאללה, חבר שלי שגם שונא אותם, ביחד נעשה את זה. And that was Esau's plan, not just for their life, but for the... He was a very great man, in a sense, Esau. He could see the future as well. And that's the joint forces, and that's what we call the war of Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog is those two, the Esau and the Ishmael. The Gemara in Yuma says before Mashiach comes, just before Mashiach, there's going to be two great civilizations that they're going to initially come at the Jews, which is, we can say that radical Islam, and in a sense the Western world. And then there's a certain point they turn against each other, and the Talmud has a big argument, who's going to die first, which one is going to win. Unfortunately, it looks like Rabbi Akiva was right, and others that says it's Ishmael that wins. They're stronger. And then they come at us, and then it looks like they're going to win. And I've told some of you this before. There's a famous midrash says at the end there's leaders of Jews and there's leaders of the Arabs, and they say, let's go and ask Hashem, let's go and make an offering and see which one Hashem will listen to. And they say, whoever wins, you've got to convert to the other side. We're both going to make an offering, and Hashem's going to answer their one to test us. And they're going to say, no, you've got to convert. And we say, over my dead body, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And that's when Mashiach comes. This is written 2,000 years ago. Now, it doesn't have to happen that way, and please God, if we are meriting, as we are, the unity now, we can bring it the easier way. Bad stuff doesn't have to happen as much. But I want to share with you, there's something bigger going on. In fact, with Hanukkah, a nice little analogy, there's a numerical value, the 4 letters. Who knows what's the letters on the dreidel? Sure, we're going to do the thing in a minute. Who knows the 4 letters? So Gimel. So it's the 4, the mystics say, is to do with the 4 exiles. And if you add up those 4 letters, right, which is Gimel and Hey and Nun and Shin, comes to 358. 358 is the numerical value of 2 things: Mashiach and Nachash, a snake. It's the fight between Nachash and the snake. But even deeper, the numerical value of Esav, anyone know? What is Esav? The numerical value. Gematria shel Esav. 376. 376. Oto gematria so shalom. Because it's just peace. It's so ironic. It's always yin and yang. Yaakov, Esav. Shalom, Esav. We've got literally this thin line, and it's up to us. It's fight now between good and evil. Emet v'sheker. It's literally truth and lies, and it's big. Our job as the Jewish people when Mashiach comes is to help create a world which is ethical monotheism, which is what Abraham brought out. No one's going to have to convert to Judaism. In fact, it's too late to convert. So if any of you want to convert, do it really quick, because you're running out of time. Because it says once Mashiach's come, too late to convert, because everyone's going to want to. Unlike in Islam, for example, where they're going to go and convert everybody, otherwise you die, get your head chopped off. In Judaism, we say, sorry, Hashem loves you, as Bruno Mars says, just the way you are. Just the way you are. You're good just the way you are. Just be yourself. Be your true self. So I want to show you something now, just to show the depth of really what's going on, and then I'll conclude with an amazing idea from Rabbi Kanievsky. So, just to show you the context of anti-Semitism, these are just some of the places we've been expelled from in our history. This isn't like our first rodeo. This is maybe some of the first time we've experiencing it. So like, from England, my lovely English BBC, in 1290 they threw us out. And by the way, in France it was 1181, amongst other times. And I'll send this to you later, you can see your country there. Time and time again. Expulsion. Obviously the big one in Spain, the famous one in Spain in 1492, which was incredibly shocking. So just every generation, when we say in the Isha Amda, in every generation, anti-Semites try and destroy us. This is our history, unfortunately. Next one, Sherry. So over here, Mark Twain says an amazing line. Mark Twain, essentially, sorry you can't see it, essentially, he was incredible. One of the things he says, not that one, but a different poem. He says an amazing line. He says, the Jewish people, the Romans, we've outseen the Romans, the Greeks. He knew his history. All the ones who are oppressors, we outsee them. We left standing. We're going to be standing way after Hamas. Way after ISIS. And then you've got this other famous one where Mark Twain is basically, he just looks at the survival of the Jewish people as his greatest evidence for Hashem. Because it makes no sense that we're here, by the way. There's 15 million of us. And everyone's had a try to get rid of us, and yet we're still here. But one of the good things to come out of England, there's not much, is we had a Prime Minister that says one of the most beautiful things, the next time you want to debate, if you want to waste your time debating with someone, use this line. It's one of the best lines ever. Listen to his line. He says, of all the extreme fanaticism that plays havoc, nothing as irrational as anti-Semitism. These Jews cannot vindicate themselves in the eyes of the fanatics. If the Jews are rich, they're victims of theft. If they're poor, they're victims of ridicule. If they take sides in a war, it's because they wish to gain advantage from the spilling of non-Jewish blood. If they espouse peace, they're scared. If the Jews flood in a foreign land, he's persecuted and expelled. If he wishes to return to his own land, he's prevented from doing so. This is nothing to do with Israel. This is nothing to do with occupation. Don't be brainwashed by what you're seeing on the media. It's nothing to do with that. We've heard it all before. Forever. As soon as we're born, we were born with an anti-Semite in our crib. From day one. And it's not about Israel. It's just excuses. Next one. No. So the Gemara says the following. As we know, Esav, his grandson was Amalek, and Haman was a direct descendant. So the Purim story was an Amalek Esav, which was born from this week's parasha. Says the Gemara though, one day when Esav has to go off to a new country in the future, when they're going to come back, Haman's being killed. Who's he going to reincarnate? Which country? This is the Talmud, Megillah 6b, written in 1,600 years ago. He's going to come to a place. This refers to Esav. Don't let him throw out his bit. This refers to Geramamia of Edom. For should they go forth, they would destroy the whole world. There are 300 crown princes of Geramamia of Edom. So the Talmud predicts that Esav one day, Esav yab Geramamia. And Rashi writes on that Rashi, Zegamania Shalanu. Just for anyone with no ambiguity. Germany. There's a prediction that one day Esav would be in Germany, ducked with 300 crown princes. Next one. By the end, the Middle Ages, Germany remains a crazy patchwork of some 300 individual states. So not only do they say Germany, they tell you exactly how many states there are. It was Germany at the time of the Third Reich in the Second World War. Next. Let's have a line from Hitler, for example. Again, if you think what Hamas is saying, and by the way, what people are putting on social media, they say, here we go, Hitler says, it's true we are barbarians. That ring true? It's an honourable title by free humanity from the shackles of the soul. You have to understand something. Amalek understands their mission is to try and take us out. The Jews have inflicted 2 wounds on mankind, circumcision on his body and conscience on his soul. One of the problems, by the way, for Yishmael is they do have grit. Yishmael had a grit, and that gives them some strength, and Abraham prayed for them. The war for world domination we fought entirely between us, the Germans and the Jews. All else is a facade and illusion. So this was Amalek at its peak during the Holocaust. Next. You have this famous Bible code that I want to share with you. Famous, incredible Bible code. You've got the 10 sons of Haman. As we said, the Purim story is Esav, Haman. For generations, Esther wrote this 2,300 years ago. No one understood why she wrote a little Tav, a little Shin, and a little Zayin. No one understood. And in fact, a large Vav. It was very strange. Next one, shall we? The English meant the following. It says, all the Jews struck their enemies, so we killed the 10 sons of Haman. They're dead. Next page. But then, the same day the number of those killed in Shushan, the capital was reported to the king, which by the way says Maharal is Hashem, because whenever it says king, it's Hashem. When it says king Achashverosh, it's Achashverosh. The king, so Hashem says to Queen Esther, in Shushan the capital, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men, including the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? What is your request now? It shall be filled. Next, Siri. Esther says, if it pleases the king to allow the Jews of Shushan to do tomorrow, is to done today, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows. Why is she asking for them to die again? They were just killed. It just said they were killed. And then the king says, what would you like me to do? Oh, kill them again tomorrow. Lama. She's not talking about tomorrow. She's talking about the future. She had Ruach HaKodesh. She was saying, next time Haman comes back in Germany, help them again. Next year. So Exisit said, we've got to answer why the little tough, little shit, little Zion, and a large vav, which is peculiar, to say the least. Next. Next one. So we've got this tough, and we've got a shin and a Zion, and as I said, for 2,300 years, no one knew what Esther was referring to. Next page. Until this happened. We all know the Nuremberg trials. Goering ends life by poison, 10 others hanged in Nuremberg prison for Nazi war crimes. How many times have you thought about it where 10 people got hung on a gallows, apart from the story of Purim where 10 people got hung on a gallows? Next. So Newsweek, which is finally a media that I will like just for a moment, they, unlike today, are reporting accurately, and they say the following line: only Julius Streicher went without dignity. He had to be pushed across the floor, wild-eyed, screaming, Heil Hitler, and he said, and now I go to God. He stared at the witnesses facing the gallows and said, Purim Fest, 1946, Hermann Goering, Julius Streicher, just shouts out, Happy Purim! Ma Kesher! It actually wasn't Purim, it was Hoshana Rabbah, by the way. It was the end of Sukkot, which is interesting, of when the tragedy happened in Simchat Torah. Next. You said that's the next one. So here's my things, what Esther is referring to, and this was the Bible code. There's 3 letters. It's Taf Shin Zayin, which comes together to 707. 707. Why is 707 important? Because the way we count, the way we have our calendar, is we count from 1 to 999, and then we start again every millennium. So go to the next one, Sherry. So what Esther was referring to was what happened. She was referring to next time Haman comes back, the Tov and Shin and Zion. When is Tov, Shin, Zion? And by the way, it was meant to have been Tov, Shin, Vav, but they had pleas of amnesty and it got delayed till after Rosh Hashanah, moving it from Tov, Shin, Vav to Tov, Shin, Zion. It moved it, so Esther knew about the plea from amnesty. She knew it was Tov, Shin, Zion, no doubt. And the large, so do you understand? So the way it works in every generation, with 707. So 707 is how we call it, Tov Shin Zayin. And that's why she wrote the large Vav. Just in case there's any cynics out there. Oh, it could have happened. It could be, it's Tov Shin Zayin 6 times. So that's why she wrote the large Vav. Because by the way, it's the 6th one. She literally dated, put the date of when the 10 Nazis are going to be hanged on the gallows. Next. So, what do we see from this? We see that Hashem's got a picture. I saw with my own eyes a tzaddik called Rabbi Yonason Eibeshitz, who wrote a few hundred years ago, who katav, Yonason Eibeshitz, if you know that, who katav b'miktav, b'simchat Torah, Yishmael Yavo, v'yaseh pera Adam. Hashem called it pera Adam. Hashem called them wild. So this has all been seen from up high. We're kind of going through a very important phase of Jewish history. And the good news is we win. And the good news is it's going to be okay. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky, just to finish off with, says the song we sing at the end of Pesach, where we sing the song of Chad Gadya. We think Chad Gadya, and everyone thinks it's a silly song, and people like to sing it with dogs and cats. He says it's one of the holiest songs. He says that whole Chad Gadya is referring to all the exiles. There's 4 exiles, and there was 8 people. Each one has 2. And as it comes out, the cat and the dog is about Persia. He goes through the whole exiles, and then he prophesied and said, what's the last 2 on Chad Gadya? Anyone remember? Anyone know? You've got the shochet, the slaughterer, and then the angel of death. So the mystics debate, which one's Yishmael, And Reb Chaim Kanievsky said very clearly that Ishmael is the last one, is the angel of death. That they're going to do terrible things, terrible things. It's because Hashem called them Pera Adam, which means they're not thinking like a human. Normally you say Shulchan Gadol. You should say Adam Pera. The fact it says Pera Adam is the noun, is they're wild. The adjective is they're a bit of humanity. But it's much more wild than human. Like we're all thinking, how can anyone do that? The idea of saying Allah Akbar, and then I say Shema Yisrael, and I want to kiss the Sefer Torah. I want to give charity. To say Shema Yisrael and do what they're doing, something's not right. One of the things not right is, it's Pera, there's wildness. But I want to finish with this. We're part of something huge, which is all dated in the Torah, and when eventually this ends, we'll probably see the Bible codes for what we're going through as well. But we're still in the middle of it, and it's absolutely imperative that Hakol Kol Yaakov is strong. This is serious time. This is the time to step up. It's the time to step up and be the highest versions of ourselves. I want to finish off with this. Rabbi Tatz explained to me, based from his Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, that the Yishmael stand for when we don't do emunah right. There's two things. There's emet and emunah, truth and faith. Esav, when we don't do emet right. Hitler, the Germans came in with their cultural bit of, this is the way to be culturally correct. Radical Islam and Hamas right now, ostensibly, I'll do anything for God. I'll blow myself up. I want to be a martyr. I have the best faith. Our job is to combine emet ve'emunah. Is to say, Hashem, I'm loyal to you, but use our brain at the same time. But there's logic. Hashem wants us to use our brain. It's ethical monotheism. It's, on one hand, Hashem, I love you. But Hashem, I love you from this perspective of morality, of kindness, of unity. And it's now a war between emet and sheker. And the more we retain our emet, the numerical value of emet, anyone know? 441. 441, according to the Arizal, every word has what's called a mispar katan. A mispar katan shel emet zeh tesha. Number 9. 4 plus 4 plus. Why is 9? And by the way, it says in the Gemara, how does Hashem sign his name? He signs his name emet. Why? Because with 9, however you multiply 9, you get back to 9. What's 9 times 2? 18. 1 plus 8? 9 times 3? 2 plus 7. 9 times 5? 45. 4 plus 5. However you divide up truth comes to truth. Truth will come out. And that's what's going to happen very soon in the world. The truth will come out, and we've just got to stay strong. We've got to stay united. And B'ezras Hashem, in merit of the Torah we just learned, and really understanding the Parasha of Yaakov, and Hakol Kol Yaakov, and really upping our game with our kol of tefillah. I think I went to the square in the hostages, and everyone's singing. When the other side there protest, there's so much hate and anger. How do Jews protest? We sing. Do you know why? Hakol Kol Yaakov, and deeper than that, what's going on is expressed from such a deep place that you can only sing it. Words are not enough. So we sing our songs of peace, and we sing our songs of emunah, and we sing our songs of achdut. And we have to up our game in Torah, up our game in unity. Before I came, someone sent me a video of his friend. There was a principal of a school that sent out a WhatsApp message to his school and said, this is the time, everybody, just one thing. Don't speak Lashon Hara. Let's not speak bad about each other. And he passed away. This soldier passed away, and that was his last message out there. So I'm just hearing from tzaddikim in heaven, in Shamayim, not to speak Lashon Hara about each other. I really hope that after the war, it doesn't go back to the, God forbid, the Sinat Chinam and the left and the right. K'moshe Nisim Amar, Kulanu Yachad, Kulanu Mishpacha Achad, B'ezrat Hashem. Hashem Yavi Geula Miyad, B'ezrat Hashem. As we said, Hashem tonight should return all the hostages. We should protect the Chayalei Tzva G'nai Yisrael. We should protect Am Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael. And Mizat Hashem, Macha, Niyab Yerushalayim Biyachad, the Binyan Bayit HaShlishi. Thank you, everybody.